You know, every single time you click something, share a post, or buy something online, you're creating a kind of digital shadow. And how that shadow gets used? Well, that's not just a technical question, it's a deeply, deeply ethical one. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into the core principles of data ethics and find out why, in this day and age, trust is really the only currency that matters.
You've probably heard it a million times, right? Data is the new oil. It's the fuel that powers our future. But here's the thing. If you mishandle it, it's not oil. It's a toxic liability. Every little piece of data carries this hidden risk, the potential to cause real harm, to shatter trust, and to ruin reputations. And figuring out how to walk that tightrope between asset and liability, well, that's what data ethics is all about.
And this slide, wow, it really gets to the heart of the tension. See, on one side, for organizations, data is pure gold. It drives everything from innovation to profit. But on the other side, it's intensely personal. We're not talking about an abstract resource like oil or coal here. We're talking about information that represents real people. And the decisions made with that data can literally change someone's life, affecting their job, their opportunities, even their dignity.
Okay, so what do we even mean by handling data ethically? And let me be clear, this goes way beyond just following the rules or checking a legal box. It's a whole framework, a mindset for how you manage information, from the second you get it to the moment you delete it. And the whole time, the top priorities are fairness, respect, and trust. It's about taking on a serious social responsibility for the digital lives that we hold in our hands.
So to get this right, you really need a kind of moral compass. And luckily, we don't have to invent one from scratch. We can actually borrow some really solid, time-tested ethical principles, many from fields like bioethics. These ideas help us cut through all the complexity by always coming back to one central idea: human dignity.
All right, first up, and this one is arguably the most important, is respect for persons. It sounds simple, right? Treat people like people, with dignity. Respect that they can make their own choices. But the implications are huge. It means you have to constantly remind yourself that behind every single data point, every user ID, every line in a database, there's a human being whose story and rights matter.
Next, we've got a principle called beneficence. And this one's got two parts. The first part is the famous one you definitely heard. First, do no harm. It's this idea that as professionals, we have a duty to make sure our work doesn't hurt anyone. But there's a second part, and it's more proactive. It's about trying to do the most good you can with the data, while at the same time doing everything possible to reduce any potential risks.
And that brings us to our third big principle, justice. This one is all about one word: fairness. It's the one that makes us stop and ask the really hard questions, like, are our processes and our algorithms actually fair to everyone? Or have we accidentally built something that helps one group of people but ends up hurting another?
And this quote, man, this is where it gets incredibly real really fast. We're not talking about some abstract philosophical debate here. This is a direct challenge to the heart of modern tech, especially AI. Think about it. If our AI is trained on data from a world that has biases, and let's be real, it does, then that AI isn't just going to learn those biases. It's going to supercharge them. It'll put a high-tech, impartial-looking stamp on old, ugly prejudices.
So you might be thinking, okay, these are nice ideas, but are they just suggestions? No way. These principles are the actual bedrock of modern data privacy laws all over the world. They take these big, abstract ideas and bake them into concrete rules that organizations have to follow. And if they don't, well, they ignore them at their own peril.
Let's just take the big one, the EU's GDPR. Look at some of these principles right from the law. Purpose limitation. That just means you can't collect data for one reason and then use it for something else entirely. Or data minimization, which means, hey, only collect what you absolutely need, nothing more. You even have storage limitation. Don't just hoard data forever. You see, each one of these is a direct line back to those ethical ideas of respecting people and doing no harm. This is literally ethics written into law.
And it's not just a European thing either. This is happening everywhere. You look at Canada's law, PIPEDA, and you see the same ideas popping up again: accountability, consent, safeguards. It's all built on that same ethical foundation. The message couldn't be clearer. Handling data responsibly isn't optional anymore. It's a global expectation.
Okay, so what happens when this goes wrong? What are the risks? Because ignoring these principles isn't just, bad manners. It throws the door wide open to some really nasty stuff. Practices that can be used to mislead people, to manipulate them, and to cause some very real harm to individuals and organizations.
Bias is probably one of the biggest and trickiest dangers out there.
And as you can see here, it can sneak in at pretty much any point in the process. It could be right at the beginning in your sampling, if the group you're studying isn't actually random or representative. Or it can pop up later, during the analysis. You see this hunch and search method? That's when someone already has a belief, and they just go looking for the data that proves them right, ignoring everything else. It's a super dangerous trap.
And that right there, that's what's so incredibly dangerous about bias. It essentially takes a really unfair idea, runs it through a spreadsheet, and makes it come out the other side looking like objective scientific fact. It gives a flawed decision the shiny veneer of impartiality.
Another really common and sneaky tactic is using charts and graphs to mislead people. I mean, we've all seen this, right? Take a simple bar chart. Just by messing with the scale on the side, that y-axis, you can make a tiny, insignificant change look like a total market collapse. Or you can make a tiny little bump look like world-changing growth. You're using the language of data to lie. Plain and simple.
Okay, so we've looked at the big principles, we've touched on the laws, and we've seen the scary risks. So what's the solution? How do we actually do this? Well, this is the most critical part. It's all about moving from just talking about this stuff to actually building it into your everyday work, into your company's culture.
And getting there isn't magic. It's a step-by-step process. Step 1, you have to take a hard, honest look at what you're doing right now. Where are the ethical gaps? Then step 2, you formalize your principles. What do you stand for? What specific risks are you trying to avoid? And then and only then can you move to step 3, building a real strategy. That means a real code of ethics, real training, and making sure everyone in the organization is on board. You're basically weaving this into the company's DNA.
And really that brings us to the key takeaway here. Building an ethical culture isn't about putting a fluffy mission statement on the wall. It's a discipline. It's about having a checklist of tough questions that you ask yourselves at every single turn. This model shows it perfectly. You have to examine everything, from the very beginning of a project all the way to the end. So I'll just leave you with this thought. The next time you're about to start a new project involving data, take a look at these questions. Are you really prepared to answer them?